The unfolding conflict between Iran and Israel has captured the world's attention, but for the global Muslim community, it is much more than a regional dispute. This crisis poses profound questions about the future of the Ummah, the worldwide body of Muslims bound not only by faith but by a shared history, culture, and destiny. As tensions escalate, the central question emerges: is this moment a catalyst for unity or a step toward deeper fragmentation and collapse? The answer carries immense weight, not only for the political landscape of the Middle East, but for the spiritual and social fabric of Muslims everywhere. Throughout history, the Ummah has faced challenges that tested its solidarity and resolve. There have been times when Muslims came together under a common cause, transcending tribal, ethnic, and sectarian divides to forge a powerful collective identity. Equally, there have been periods marked by division and strife, where discord threatened to tear apart what was once unified. The Iran-Israel crisis, with its complex interplay of political ambitions, religious identities, and historical grievances, mirrors many of these past struggles. Yet, it also brings new dimensions shaped by the modern world, global media, social networks, and shifting alliances that influence how Muslims perceive themselves and their place in the world. Beyond geopolitics, this moment invites reflection on the deeper teachings of Islam concerning unity and brotherhood. Islamic scripture and tradition emphasize the importance of maintaining cohesion and avoiding discord within the community. But in recent decades, sectarianism and political rivalries have often overshadowed these principles, leading to fragmentation and mistrust. Now, amid the turmoil, many are asking if the Ummah can reclaim its foundational values and rise above divisions to meet the challenges before it. This inquiry touches not only on contemporary realities but also on long-standing prophecies and signs found within Islamic teachings. These prophetic insights offer both warnings and hope, suggesting that trials are part of a broader spiritual journey for the Ummah. As the global Muslim community watches and reacts to the unfolding crisis, the potential for awakening looms large. Whether this moment will awaken a renewed sense of purpose and unity, or deepen the fractures within, remains an urgent and open question. This exploration will seek to understand that path by examining history, prophecy, and modern commentary to grasp what lies ahead for the Ummah. The story of the Muslim Ummah is one of both profound unity and painful fragmentation, shaped by centuries of triumphs and trials that continue to echo in today's challenges. At the dawn of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad inspired a remarkable unity among diverse Arabian tribes, forging a community bound by faith, shared values, and a vision for justice. This early unity was not merely religious but social and political, establishing a foundation for the Ummah as a collective entity transcending ethnic, tribal, and cultural differences. The first decades after the Prophet's passing saw the Rashidun Caliphate extend this unity, creating a vast realm under a single political and spiritual leadership. It was a time when the bonds of brotherhood were strong, and the ideal of the Ummah as one body was lived out in practice. However, the early Islamic period also witnessed the emergence of challenges that would test this unity. Following the Rashidun era, the Umayyad and Abbasid caliphates expanded the Muslim world geographically but introduced new complexities. The vastness of the empire, the rise of dynastic rule, and emerging ethnic distinctions began to erode the earlier ideal of a singular Ummah. While political unity remained a goal, it became increasingly difficult to maintain in the face of growing diversity and local interests. Religious interpretations also began to diverge, sowing seeds of sectarianism that would later become more pronounced. One of the most significant sources of division arose from the dispute over rightful leadership after the Prophet's death. This disagreement led to the emergence of the Sunni and Shia branches of Islam, each with its own theological and political perspectives. Over time, these divisions were reinforced by historical events, conflicts, and competing allegiances. Though both Sunni and Shia Muslims share the core tenets of Islam, the differences in leadership doctrines and certain practices have contributed to fragmentation within the Ummah. These divisions were not merely religious but often became intertwined with political rivalries and regional power struggles. The experience of colonialism further compounded these divisions. European powers, in their pursuit of control, drew artificial borders and favored certain groups over others, often manipulating sectarian and ethnic tensions to maintain dominance. The legacy of these colonial interventions left many Muslim societies fragmented along lines that did not necessarily reflect the historical or spiritual unity of the Ummah. The post-colonial period saw the emergence of nation-states with competing interests, further complicating efforts toward unity. Nationalism often became a competing identity to the idea of a global Muslim brotherhood, leading to political fragmentation and internal conflicts. Despite these challenges, history also reveals moments when the Ummah rallied together in pursuit of common goals. Throughout the centuries, Muslim scholars, leaders, and communities have called for unity, reminding believers of their shared heritage and responsibilities. Movements aimed at reform, revival, and solidarity have periodically emerged, seeking to bridge divides and restore the ideal of a unified Ummah. These efforts reflect the enduring aspiration among many Muslims to overcome differences and embody the principles of brotherhood and mutual support taught in Islam. In recent decades, globalization and technological advances have introduced new dynamics. The Muslim world is more interconnected than ever, allowing for greater exchange of ideas, culture, and activism. At the same time, this interconnectedness has brought new challenges, including the spread of extremist ideologies and increased political tensions that exploit sectarianism. The Iran-Israel crisis unfolds against this backdrop of both historical fragmentation and modern complexities, raising urgent questions about whether the Ummah can learn from the past to navigate its present and future. Understanding the historical context of Muslim unity and fragmentation is essential to grasp the stakes of today's crisis. The divisions that exist are deeply rooted but not insurmountable. The memory of the early Ummah's cohesion offers a powerful reminder that unity is possible when Muslims embrace their common faith and values above political or sectarian interests. At the same time, history warns that ignoring these lessons can lead to repeated cycles of conflict and disunity. The coming chapters will explore how this legacy shapes the current moment and what it means for the potential awakening or collapse of the Muslim community in a world marked by uncertainty and change. The ongoing crisis between Iran and Israel stands as one of the most volatile and complex flashpoints in the Middle East today. This conflict is not simply a territorial or military dispute. It is deeply entwined with broader ideological, religious, and geopolitical tensions that resonate far beyond the immediate region. At its core, the crisis reflects long-standing enmities, historical grievances, and competing visions for power and influence. For the global Muslim community, the Iran-Israel confrontation presents a challenge that tests loyalties, beliefs, and the possibility of collective action. Iran positions itself as a defender of the Palestinian cause and a challenger to Israeli dominance in the region. Since the Islamic Revolution of 1979, Iran has actively sought to assert its influence across the Middle East, supporting groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. This posture has made Iran a central player in the broader struggle against Israel, aligning itself with many Muslims who view the Israeli occupation and policies in Palestine as deeply unjust. Iran's rhetoric often frames the conflict as not only political but also religious, appealing to a wider Muslim identity united against what it portrays as aggression and oppression. Israel, on the other hand, views Iran's growing influence and nuclear ambitions as existential threats. The Israeli government emphasizes its right to defend its citizens and maintain security in a region where hostile actors surround it. Israel's strategic responses, including targeted strikes against Iranian-backed militias and infrastructure, have intensified the conflict. This tit-for-tat escalation risks drawing the entire region into a wider war, with devastating consequences for all involved. The fear of broader regional instability is not unfounded, given the history of proxy conflicts and alliances that have often drawn in multiple powers. The crisis also exposes deep divisions within the Muslim world itself. Muslim-majority countries hold varying positions on Iran and Israel, influenced by political alliances, sectarian identities, and strategic interests. Sunni-majority nations such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have historically been wary of Iran's regional ambitions, leading to diplomatic tensions and rivalries. Yet, some of these countries have also pursued quiet agreements and pragmatic relations with Israel, complicating the narrative of a united Muslim front against Israel. Meanwhile, Shia-majority Iran continues to cultivate its alliances, creating a fragmented landscape where political calculation often outweighs religious solidarity. Global reactions further complicate the situation. Major powers, including the United States, Russia, and European nations, play influential roles in shaping the conflict's trajectory through military support, diplomatic engagement, and economic sanctions. Their involvement reflects broader global strategic interests, but it also often exacerbates local tensions and divides. For many Muslims watching from afar, these external influences can feel like interference that undermines the autonomy and unity of the Ummah. The media's role in framing the Iran-Israel crisis cannot be overlooked. News outlets, social media platforms, and political commentators often present conflicting narratives that can inflame passions or deepen misunderstandings. The rapid spread of information and misinformation alike fuels polarized views within Muslim communities and beyond, making consensus and dialogue more difficult to achieve. This environment of heightened emotion and mistrust risks overshadowing the potential for peaceful resolution or united responses grounded in Islamic principles of justice and reconciliation. Despite the dangers, the crisis has also sparked important conversations among Muslims worldwide about identity, responsibility, and the future of the Ummah. It forces a reckoning with questions about how political interests and sectarian divides impact collective action. Many wonder whether the Ummah can rise above these divisions to support a just and peaceful resolution, or if the conflict will deepen existing fractures. The Iran-Israel crisis thus serves as a critical mirror reflecting the broader challenges facing Muslim unity today. As this conflict continues to unfold, its significance goes beyond military engagements and diplomatic maneuvers. It highlights the urgent need for introspection within the Muslim world about how to navigate internal differences while addressing external threats. The crisis underscores the fragile balance between regional power struggles and the aspiration for a unified Muslim identity grounded in faith, justice, and mutual respect. Understanding these dynamics is crucial to grasping whether this moment will push the Ummah toward greater solidarity or hasten its fragmentation. The coming analysis will further explore these tensions and their implications for the future of the global Muslim community. The global Muslim reaction to the Iran-Israel crisis reveals a striking pattern of disunity that reflects the complex realities of the modern Ummah. While the conflict itself evokes strong emotions and deep concerns among Muslims worldwide, their responses are far from uniform. Instead, they illustrate the enduring fractures and tensions that continue to challenge the ideal of a cohesive Muslim community. These varied reactions underscore how historical grievances, political interests, and sectarian loyalties influence the way Muslims engage with contemporary conflicts. In many parts of the Muslim world, the Iran-Israel crisis is seen through the prism of long-standing sectarian divisions. Sunni and Shia communities often interpret the conflict differently, shaped by their own experiences and alliances. For Shia Muslims, especially those aligned with Iran, the crisis reinforces a narrative of resistance against oppression and injustice inflicted by Israel and its allies. This perspective draws on historical experiences of marginalization and conflict and is often expressed with strong solidarity for Iran's stance. On the other hand, many Sunni Muslims, particularly in countries where governments maintain tense or hostile relations with Iran, approach the crisis with suspicion or outright opposition to Tehran's ambitions. These divisions make it difficult for the Ummah to present a united front, as allegiances tend to reflect geopolitical and sectarian affiliations as much as shared faith. Political interests play a significant role in shaping Muslim reactions as well. Muslim-majority countries have diverse foreign policies and regional priorities, which affect how they respond to the crisis. Some governments have openly condemned Iran's actions, while others have offered cautious support or maintained silence. In some cases, states have pursued their own strategic partnerships with Israel, driven by economic or security concerns, which complicates the broader Muslim narrative of opposition to Israeli policies. These political calculations often overshadow religious and ethical considerations, further fragmenting the Muslim response. The role of media and communication platforms has also influenced the disjointed reaction. Social media, in particular, serves as a double-edged sword. It allows Muslim voices from various backgrounds to express their views and mobilize support, but it also amplifies polarization and misinformation. Online discussions frequently become arenas of sectarian rhetoric, heated debates, and even hostility, making constructive dialogue challenging. This environment can harden existing divides and foster misunderstanding rather than empathy and unity. The rapid flow of conflicting information leaves many Muslims uncertain about the facts, complicating efforts to reach common ground. Misinformation and propaganda further exacerbate these divisions. Various actors with vested interests exploit the crisis to promote narratives that serve their agendas, often at the expense of truth and unity. False reports, conspiracy theories, and inflammatory statements circulate widely, stirring emotions and fueling mistrust between Muslim groups. These tactics undermine efforts to foster solidarity and peaceful resolution, trapping the Ummah in cycles of suspicion and conflict. Despite these challenges, some signs of hope emerge from within Muslim communities. Across different countries and sects, there are individuals and groups calling for restraint, dialogue, and reconciliation. These voices remind their fellow Muslims of the teachings that emphasize brotherhood, compassion, and the avoidance of discord. Initiatives aimed at fostering intersectarian understanding and cooperation have gained traction in some places, even if they remain limited in scope. Such efforts suggest that the desire for unity and peace endures, even amidst the turmoil. Ultimately, the global Muslim reaction to the Iran-Israel crisis reflects the deep complexities and contradictions within the Ummah today. The fragmentation on display is not simply a matter of political disagreement, but reveals underlying social, historical, and religious tensions that challenge collective identity. This disunity weakens the ability of Muslims to act cohesively in response to crises that affect them all. It also raises urgent questions about how the Ummah might overcome these divisions and rekindle the spirit of unity that is central to its faith and history. The current moment is both a challenge and an opportunity. The visible disunity highlights what must be addressed for the Ummah to find a way forward. Recognizing the fractures is the first step toward healing and revival. The coming discussions will explore how Islamic teachings and prophetic guidance offer pathways to overcome disunity, and whether this moment can inspire a collective awakening toward unity and strength. Islamic teachings place profound emphasis on the unity and brotherhood of the Muslim community, presenting these ideals not merely as social goals but as essential spiritual obligations. The concept of the Ummah in Islam is far more than a political or cultural entity. It is a sacred bond that links Muslims across time and space through shared faith and moral responsibility. From the earliest days of Islam, unity among believers was considered vital to the survival and flourishing of the community. This unity is rooted in the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, who repeatedly stressed the importance of harmony, mutual support, and collective strength. The Quran contains numerous verses that highlight the significance of unity among Muslims. It portrays the Ummah as one body, where the well-being of each member affects the whole. One of the fundamental principles is that believers should hold fast to the rope of Allah collectively and avoid division. This call to unity is accompanied by stern warnings against discord and strife, which are seen as detrimental to the community's spiritual health and worldly success. The Quran encourages believers to reconcile differences with wisdom and patience, emphasizing forgiveness and understanding as pathways to harmony. The teachings of the Prophet Muhammad further reinforce these principles. His life exemplified how to build and maintain a cohesive community, bridging tribal and ethnic divides through compassion, justice, and shared purpose. The Prophet's farewell sermon famously urged Muslims to regard one another as brothers, underscoring that no person holds superiority over another except through piety and good conduct. This emphasis on brotherhood transcends racial, ethnic, and social distinctions, establishing a universal foundation for solidarity among Muslims. In addition to these broad principles, Islam warns strongly against fitna, a term that encompasses discord, sedition, and internal conflict. Fitna is repeatedly described as a destructive force that weakens the Ummah and invites external threats. Islamic tradition urges believers to avoid actions that sow division or hostility within the community. This injunction is not limited to avoiding open conflict, but extends to refraining from speech and behavior that can inflame tensions or create mistrust. Leaders and scholars are given particular responsibility to guide the community toward unity, acting as custodians of peace and reconciliation. The concept of brotherhood in Islam also carries practical implications for social and political life. It calls on Muslims to support one another in times of hardship, to uphold justice, and to engage in collective efforts for the common good. This mutual responsibility reinforces the idea that the strength of the Ummah depends on the well-being of all its members. Charity, consultation, and cooperation are encouraged as means to build trust and solidarity. When disagreements arise, Islamic teachings emphasize dialogue, mediation, and patience rather than confrontation. Throughout Islamic history, these teachings have inspired movements and leaders who sought to unify the Muslim world in the face of external threats or internal strife. The aspiration for unity has been a recurring theme in calls for reform and revival, reflecting a deep awareness that division diminishes the community's ability to fulfill its spiritual and social mission. At the same time, the reality of human diversity and political complexity has meant that unity has often been an ideal to strive toward rather than a constant state. In the modern context, these teachings remain profoundly relevant. The divisions seen in the Muslim world today, whether sectarian, ethnic, or political, stand in contrast to the Quranic vision of a united Ummah. However, they also provide a framework for healing and renewal. By returning to the core values of brotherhood, justice, and mutual respect, Muslims can work to overcome the fractures that threaten their collective strength. This requires not only individual commitment but also collective efforts by scholars, leaders, and communities to promote dialogue and reconciliation. Islamic teachings on unity do not demand uniformity or suppression of legitimate differences. Rather, they recognize diversity as part of God's design, while urging that it should not lead to division or hostility. The challenge lies in finding ways to honor diversity while maintaining the bonds that hold the Ummah together. This balance is essential to preserving the spiritual integrity and social cohesion of the Muslim community. Ultimately, the principles of unity and brotherhood in Islam serve as both a guide and a challenge. They remind Muslims of their shared identity and common destiny, calling them to transcend divisions and embody the compassion and justice that Islam teaches. In moments of crisis, such as the current Iran-Israel conflict, these teachings offer a source of hope and direction. They suggest that despite deep differences and external pressures, the Ummah has the capacity to come together, strengthen its bonds, and chart a course toward peace and solidarity. This spiritual foundation may prove crucial in determining whether the Muslim community moves toward greater unity or further fragmentation in the years to come. Islamic eschatology offers a profound lens through which many Muslims view the trials and tribulations facing the Ummah today, including the Iran-Israel crisis. The teachings concerning the end times are found in the Quran and the Hadith, where the Prophet Muhammad spoke about a series of signs and events that would precede the final days. These prophecies are both warnings and sources of hope, guiding believers to remain steadfast and conscious of their faith amid turmoil. They invite reflection on the spiritual dimensions of worldly conflicts, encouraging the Ummah to seek unity and righteousness even as it faces great challenges. Among the signs mentioned in Islamic tradition are the rise of discord and division within the Muslim community itself. The fragmentation and strife currently evident in the Middle East and beyond align closely with these descriptions. The Hadith warn of increasing fitna, a term that encompasses internal conflict, sedition, and social upheaval, which will test the patience and faith of believers. This unrest is not confined to political or military clashes, but extends to deep societal divisions and moral decay. For many Muslims, the ongoing tensions serve as reminders that such trials have been foretold and must be met with spiritual resilience. Prophecies also speak of the emergence of certain figures and movements who will either contribute to further chaos or help restore justice and order. One prominent figure is the Mahdi, a divinely guided leader expected to appear in the final era to unite Muslims and establish peace and justice. Alongside the Mahdi, the return of Isa, Jesus, is foretold to play a pivotal role in overcoming oppression and falsehood. These eschatological beliefs reinforce the idea that despite the current darkness, hope remains for a future renewal and reconciliation. The anticipation of these events encourages many Muslims to remain vigilant and committed to upholding Islamic values. The Iran-Israel crisis is viewed by some through the prism of these prophecies, seen as part of the broader unfolding of signs that indicate a time of great trial for the Ummah. This perspective lends a spiritual urgency to the political realities, suggesting that the current conflicts are not merely geopolitical, but also deeply connected to divine wisdom and the unfolding of a greater plan. It is a reminder that suffering and discord are temporary phases that will be followed by a period of divine intervention and justice. At the same time, Islamic eschatology warns against despair and fatalism. The emphasis is on active faith and moral conduct, encouraging Muslims not to resign themselves to chaos but to strive for unity, justice, and peace. The trials are understood as tests of faith, with the promise that those who remain patient and righteous will be rewarded. This framework offers both comfort and motivation, calling believers to resist division and work toward the ideals that Islam champions. The prophetic signs also serve as a caution against hastiness in judgment or action. They remind the Ummah that appearances can be deceiving and that true guidance comes from adherence to divine teachings rather than partisan politics or emotional impulses. This caution is especially relevant in times of conflict, where misinformation and manipulation can easily lead to further discord. By grounding their responses in faith and prophecy, Muslims are encouraged to seek wisdom and unity rather than succumb to fragmentation. In this light, the eschatological teachings in Islam provide a meaningful context for understanding the challenges faced by the Ummah today. They offer a narrative that connects present struggles with a larger spiritual journey, encouraging perseverance and hope. While the future remains uncertain, these prophecies inspire many Muslims to believe that unity and renewal are possible if the community can overcome its divisions and embrace the core values of Islam. The signs, therefore, are both warnings and invitations calling the Ummah to awaken, to unite, and to prepare for a future shaped by justice and peace. In the midst of the current turmoil marked by conflict and division, there are growing voices within the Muslim world calling for awakening and renewal. These calls come from scholars, activists, and everyday believers who recognize the urgent need to bridge divides and reclaim the spirit of unity that is foundational to Islam. The potential for awakening is tied closely to the recognition that disunity weakens the Ummah, and that a collective renewal of faith and purpose can serve as a powerful antidote to the challenges it faces. This renewed consciousness is emerging through various channels and movements that seek to inspire hope, dialogue, and cooperation across traditional boundaries. Many contemporary scholars emphasize that the crisis confronting Muslims today is not merely political but spiritual. They argue that a return to authentic Islamic principles centered on justice, compassion, and mutual respect is necessary to overcome the fractures that have taken root. These voices often highlight the dangers of sectarianism and nationalism, which they see as deviations from the true teachings of Islam. They advocate for a revival of the prophetic model of leadership and community, one that transcends worldly divisions and focuses on shared values. Through sermons, writings, and public discussions, these thinkers encourage Muslims to look beyond immediate conflicts and see the larger picture of a collective destiny. Youth movements play a particularly important role in this potential awakening. Young Muslims around the world are increasingly connected through social media and other digital platforms, which provide spaces for exchange of ideas and mobilization. Unlike previous generations, many young people today are less inclined to accept inherited sectarian or political narratives without question. They seek knowledge, engage with diverse perspectives, and demand accountability from leaders and institutions. This generation is often described as more open to intersectarian dialogue and collaboration. Grassroots initiatives, online forums, and cross-community projects reflect a desire among youth to build bridges rather than walls. The power of social media in fostering this awakening cannot be overstated. It allows for rapid dissemination of messages promoting unity and understanding while also exposing the dangers of division. Activists use these tools to highlight stories of cooperation between different Muslim communities, challenge sectarian propaganda, and call for peaceful resolutions to conflicts. Despite the risks of misinformation and polarization, the digital sphere has created unprecedented opportunities for connection and solidarity among Muslims across continents. This connectivity encourages a sense of belonging to a larger Ummah, reinforcing the idea that unity is both possible and necessary. Several prominent figures and movements have emerged as symbols of this call for unity and awakening. They often draw on Islamic teachings to advocate for justice and reconciliation, challenging sectarianism and political factionalism. These leaders emphasize that the true strength of the Ummah lies in its ability to unite around shared faith and principles rather than be divided by differences. Their messages resonate particularly in times of crisis, offering hope and a roadmap for healing. Through lectures, writings, and interfaith initiatives, they promote the vision of a Muslim community renewed in faith and purpose. Dialogue initiatives have also gained momentum, aiming to bridge divides between Sunni and Shia communities, as well as other sects and ethnic groups within Islam. These efforts are often led by scholars and community leaders who recognize that lasting peace and unity require sincere engagement and understanding. Conferences, workshops, and joint religious celebrations serve as platforms to build trust and dispel misconceptions. While challenges remain, these initiatives represent a meaningful step toward overcoming historical grievances and fostering a sense of collective identity. The broader context of global change adds urgency and opportunity to these awakening efforts. The Muslim world is facing rapid social, political, and economic transformations that demand adaptive and inclusive responses. Issues such as poverty, injustice, and external interference affect all Muslim communities and underscore the need for solidarity. Many activists and thinkers argue that only through unity can the Ummah effectively address these challenges and reclaim its rightful place on the world stage. This awareness fuels efforts to transcend divisions and build alliances based on common goals. Despite the hopeful signs, the path to awakening is neither simple nor guaranteed. Deep-seated mistrust, entrenched interests, and external pressures continue to pose significant obstacles. The challenge lies in sustaining momentum, translating dialogue into action, and overcoming the temptations of sectarianism and political expediency. It requires patience, wisdom, and a shared commitment to the values that unite Muslims at their core. Yet, the very existence of these movements and voices signals that the potential for awakening is real. They remind the Ummah that renewal begins with awareness and that even small steps toward understanding and cooperation can lead to profound change. As Muslims reflect on the current crisis and their shared history, these modern efforts offer a path forward, one that honors tradition while embracing the possibilities of the present. Whether this moment becomes a turning point depends largely on the willingness of the community to listen, learn, and unite in pursuit of a common future marked by peace, justice, and solidarity. The questions raised by the Iran-Israel crisis go far beyond immediate political or military concerns. They strike at the heart of the Muslim Ummah's identity, its capacity for unity, and its resilience in the face of adversity. History has shown that the Ummah is capable of remarkable cohesion when guided by shared faith and purpose, yet it has also been vulnerable to divisions fueled by sectarianism, politics, and external manipulation. Today, the challenges may seem more complex and daunting than ever before, but the principles that have sustained the community for centuries remain as relevant and powerful as they ever were. This moment offers a crucial opportunity for reflection. The crisis unfolding before the Muslim world can either deepen existing fractures or serve as a catalyst for renewed unity and awakening. The choice lies not only with leaders and politicians, but with every member of the Ummah. It calls for a collective effort grounded in the teachings of Islam, emphasizing brotherhood, justice, and compassion. These values must inspire actions that transcend differences and build bridges where walls have long existed. The signs of division are undeniable, yet so too are the calls for awakening and solidarity. Islamic teachings remind Muslims that unity is a divine mandate and a source of strength that cannot be ignored. The prophetic traditions warn of trials but also promise renewal for those who remain steadfast in faith and committed to justice. The future of the Ummah depends on whether it embraces this vision or allows itself to be consumed by discord. As Muslims around the world consider the path forward, the challenge is to listen deeply, act wisely, and hold fast to the bonds that unite them. In doing so, they may transform this moment of crisis into one of hope and renewal. Whether the Ummah moves toward unity or collapse will depend largely on this choice, one that carries profound implications for generations to come.